What happens when a former royal steps onto a talk show, expecting to control the narrative, only to face hosts who won't cooperate? The tension in Studio 3B was palpable as cameras rolled for what was meant to be a casual morning chat. Instead, viewers witnessed one of the most intense confrontations in daytime television history. Before we get into this story, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment sharing your thoughts on celebrity entitlement. You'll want to share your reaction after hearing what happened. The morning began like any other at the studio. Kelly Ripa adjusted her earpiece while checking her notes, glancing occasionally at co-host Mark Consuelos, who was warming up the audience. The energy was light and casual, exactly what viewers expected from their favorite morning duo. "All right, everyone, we're back in 60 seconds, called the floor director. Cutting through the studio chatter, our guest is in makeup, should be ready for segment 2. Kelly turned to Mark with a raised eyebrow. "Did you read the pre-in notes? Some of these talking points seem a bit scripted." Mark shuffled his cards. "Yeah, I noticed that too. Guests are usually more flexible. This feels different." The floor director counted down silently. 5, 4, 3, 2, and they were live. "Welcome back to the show," Kelly said warmly to the camera. "We're joined by someone who needs no introduction, but we'll give her one anyway. Please welcome our guest." Applause filled the studio as Meghan walked on, her posture rigid with confidence. She sat in the guest chair, smoothing her dress with precision. "Thank you for having me," Meghan said, her voice carrying a rehearsed quality that both hosts immediately noticed. "Of course," Mark replied, leaning forward. "We're excited to hear about your latest projects. I understand you have new ventures to discuss." Meghan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Actually, I was hoping to focus on more important issues, the work I'm doing on social justice and systemic problems." Kelly exchanged a glance with Mark. Guests often steered conversations toward their passion projects, but something in Meghan's tone suggested this wouldn't be typical. "Absolutely," Kelly said smoothly. "Our viewers also enjoy the lighter side. Maybe we could start with your adjustment to life here and then move into your advocacy. It's more important to use this platform responsibly." Meghan interrupted, her voice sharper. "Morning shows focus too often on frivolous topics when real issues need attention." Mark raised an eyebrow. In 15 years, he'd rarely had a guest criticize the show format within 2 minutes. "Well, we cover serious topics," he said carefully, "but we also give our audience a mix. It's a morning show, after all." "Exactly," Meghan continued. "Morning shows have reach and influence. Instead of educating on inequality and struggles faced by marginalized communities, you focus on celebrity relationships and fashion choices." Kelly maintained her professional smile, but Mark noticed the slight tightening around her eyes. "Our viewers appreciate variety," Kelly said. "We cover breaking news, politics, authors, activists, but there's also value in joy and entertainment." "Joy and entertainment," Meghan repeated, her tone showing distaste. "While people suffer, while children go hungry, while families are torn apart by poverty and discrimination." The studio grew noticeably quiet. Even crew members paused to watch the confrontation. Mark leaned back, trying to redirect. "Those are important issues. Can you tell us about your foundation's latest initiatives?" "That's what I'm trying to do," Meghan said, her voice rising. "But you steer this toward fluff. I'm here to talk about real change, not my morning routine or favorite restaurants." "Nobody asked about your morning routine," Kelly replied, a hint of edge in her voice. "We asked about your adjustment to a new chapter, which seemed a natural starting point." "Natural, according to who?" Meghan shot back. "According to the same media machine that reduces women to personal lives instead of professional accomplishments, that focuses on what we wear, not what we think." Mark and Kelly had hosted thousands of interviews, facing difficult guests, awkward moments, and live TV challenges, but they had never experienced a guest determined to pick a fight on air. "I think there's a misunderstanding," Mark said steadily. "We invited you to respect your work and give you a platform, but this is a conversation, not a lecture. A conversation requires listening and respect for guest priorities." Meghan replied coolly. Kelly set down her coffee cup with a soft clink that seemed amplified in the tense studio atmosphere. "We are listening and we do respect our guests, but we also respect our audience who tune in expecting a certain kind of show. Maybe your audience deserves better than what they expect," Meghan said, her words hanging in the air like a challenge. The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but in television time it felt eternal. Mark could see the producer in the control booth frantically gesturing, likely deciding whether to cut to commercial or let this unfold live. "I'm sorry," Kelly said, her voice calm but dangerous. "Did you just suggest our audience, the people who have supported this show for years, don't deserve what they're getting?" "I'm suggesting they deserve content that challenges them, educates them, and inspires them to act," Meghan responded, ignoring the warning in Kelly's tone. "And you don't think we provide that?" Mark asked, patience thinning. "I think you provide entertainment, masquerading as information," Meghan said bluntly. You give people an excuse to feel informed without engaging with real-world realities. The studio fell silent. The hum of the air conditioning seemed deafening. Camera operators froze, watching the confrontation. Kelly looked at Meghan, her professional mask slipping. So let me get this straight. You came on our show, accepted our invitation, used our platform, and now you're telling us and our viewers that what we do is worthless. I wouldn't say worthless, Meghan replied, though her tone implied she absolutely would. Misguided, shallow, a missed opportunity to make a difference. Mark felt his jaw tighten. In all his years on television, he had never faced such blatant disrespect. You know what? I think we need to take a step back here. What? Meghan challenged. Because I'm being honest. Because I'm not playing along with the celebrity interview game where everyone pretends everything is wonderful. Because you're being incredibly rude to people who invited you into their home. Kelly said, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. A final warning. Our viewers don't tune in to watch someone attack the hosts. Maybe they should, Meghan shot back. Maybe they should see what happens when someone refuses to participate in the dumbing down of America. The control room was in chaos. The producer wanted to cut to commercial, while the director signaled to keep rolling, sensing either disaster or the most talked about interview of the year. The dumbing down of America, Mark repeated slowly. Is that what you think we're doing here? I think you're part of a system that keeps people distracted from real issues, Meghan said, leaning forward. You give them just enough surface-level information to feel engaged, but not enough depth to act meaningfully. Kelly laughed, sharp and humorless. This is rich coming from someone whose claim to fame is marrying into a family that literally exists for ceremonial purposes. The studio went dead silent. Even the camera operator stopped moving. Everyone knew Kelly had crossed a line, but Meghan had pushed her. There Meghan's face flushed. Excuse me, you heard me, Kelly continued, abandoning all professional composure. You want to lecture us about substance versus fluff, missed opportunities, and shallow content. Let's talk about someone who had every privilege handed to them and then spent years complaining about how hard their life was. You don't know anything about my life, Meghan said, her voice rising. You don't know what you've had to overcome, Mark interjected, patience snapping. Lady, you've been handed opportunities most people dream of. Instead of being grateful, you're telling us we're not good enough. I never said that, Meghan protested. You didn't have to, Kelly said coldly. It's been dripping from every word you've spoken. You came with an agenda. Not to have a conversation, but to prove how enlightened you are compared to the rest of us. Meghan stood abruptly, her chair rolling back. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Actually, you do, Mark said with new authority. You accepted this interview. You're on our show, using our platform, and you're going to finish this conversation like a professional. Professional, Meghan laughed bitterly. From people who just attacked me personally on live television. We responded to your attacks, Kelly corrected. You've insulted our show, our audience, and our work since you walked in. What did you expect? I expected to be treated with respect, Meghan said, shaking with anger. Respect is earned, Mark replied. You've shown none to us, or the people watching. Meghan looked around, seemingly seeing the studio for the first time. Crew members stared with shock and disgust. Audience members shifted uncomfortably. This is exactly what I'm talking about, she said, gesturing wildly. This is the problem with media today. The moment someone tries to have a real conversation about important issues, they get attacked. Important issues? Kelly's voice was incredulous. You haven't mentioned a single specific issue, program, or initiative. You've spent the entire interview talking about how terrible we are. Because you won't let me talk about what matters, Meghan insisted. We literally asked about your foundation work, Mark reminded her. You turned it into an attack on morning television. I was trying to make a larger point about media responsibility, Meghan said, though it sounded weak even to her. Insulting our audience and our work was that your strategy for making a point, Kelly asked. The floor director gestured frantically, trying to cut to commercial, but both hosts ignored him. This confrontation had gone too far to stop. You're twisting my words, Meghan said, though the cameras had captured every word she'd spoken. We don't need to twist anything, Mark replied. You called our show shallow. You said we were dumbing down America. You suggested our audience deserves better than what we give them. Those are your words, not ours. I was trying to elevate the conversation, Meghan protested. By tearing down everyone else in the room, Kelly asked. That's your idea of elevation. Meghan opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. For the first time since the interview began, she seemed to realize she might have misjudged the situation. Look, she said, her tone slightly less combative. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. Maybe, Mark said, eyebrows raised. You spent the first 10 minutes calling us corporate shills who don't care about real issues. I didn't mean it personally, Meghan said, though her earlier comments had felt personal to everyone in the studio. How else were we supposed to take it? Kelly asked. You came on our show and immediately started criticizing everything our integrity. our audience's intelligence, and our professional choices. I was trying to start a dialogue about the role of media in society, Meghan said, her voice smaller now. No, Mark said firmly, you were trying to lecture us. There's a difference between dialogue and monologue, and you've been giving us the latter since you sat down. The silence stretched heavy with tension and unspoken anger. Meghan looked around the studio, perhaps finally realizing she had alienated everyone. I think this interview isn't going the way any of us hoped, she said slowly. That's the understatement of the year, Kelly replied dryly. You know what, Kelly said, standing up, I think you're absolutely right. This interview isn't going the way any of us hoped, and I know exactly why. Meghan remained standing, arms crossed, defensively. Oh, please enlighten me, because you didn't come here for an interview, Kelly continued, voice gaining strength. You came to make a statement about how superior you are to everyone in entertainment media. That's not true, Meghan protested, but her tone lacked conviction. Mark stood as well, intensifying the confrontation. Then what would you call it? You've spent this entire segment talking down to us, criticizing our show, insulting our audience, and lecturing about media responsibility while showing none yourself. I was trying to have a meaningful conversation, Meghan insisted, though even she seemed to realize how hollow it sounded. A meaningful conversation involves listening from both sides, Kelly shot back. What you've been doing is delivering a prepared speech, regardless of what we ask. The audience was silent, transfixed. Many had their phones out, recording what would soon go viral. I don't think you understand the position I'm in, Meghan said, voice pleading. The expectations placed on me, the responsibility I feel to use my platform for good. Your platform. Mark's voice was incredulous. This is our platform, our show, our audience, our studio. You're a guest here, and you've treated it like you're doing us a favor. I am doing you a favor, Meghan said, words escaping before she could stop them. Do you know how many interview requests I turned down? How selective I have to be? The studio fell into stunned silence. Even Meghan realized she had said the wrong thing at the wrong moment. Kelly laughed, cold and sharp. There it is. The real reason you're here, not to discuss important issues, not for a meaningful conversation, but to grace us with your presence. That's not what I meant, Meghan said quickly. But that's exactly what you meant, Mark said, voice final. You think you're better than this show, better than us, better than our audience. Then you don't belong here. Are you serious? Meghan asked, voice rising. You're going to kick me off for trying to have a substantive conversation. We're asking you to leave because you've been disrespectful, condescending, and insulting since the moment you sat down, Kelly said firmly. This isn't about conversation, it's about basic human decency, which you've shown none of. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, shaking her head. This is exactly the behavior I was talking about. The moment someone challenges the status quo, they get silenced. Nobody silenced you, Mark pointed out. We gave you a platform, and you used it to attack us. That's not silencing, it's facing consequences. My actions, Meghan's voice was shrill. What actions? Trying to elevate discourse, focus on important issues. Your actions, Kelly said slowly, as if speaking to a child, include insulting our show, dismissing our audience, questioning our integrity, and implying we're part of a system keeping America dumbed down. Those are your actions. The floor director had given up signaling and watched silently. This was beyond a normal television interview. All protocols seemed irrelevant. I never said conspiracy, Meghan protested weakly. You didn't have to, Mark replied. Your implications were clear enough. Look, Meghan said, tone shifting, maybe trying to be conciliatory. There's been some miscommunication here. Maybe we can start over.